Hi, everybody. This is Austin with Fantasy Baseball on Deck, per usual. And, overall, the success of this website or this YouTube channel has been my ability to essentially identify and teach you guys how to identify and separate, statistical outliers and top performers per position from a production standpoint, across all hitters and pitchers across fantasy baseball, so that we all are scoring the max amount of points possible. And I also, a lot of times, we'll talk about roster manipulation to make the most, essentially cheat the software as much as possible. But this is an episode that has nothing to do with actual production and more of the strategic, very subjective side of what the Yankees are doing right now with Gerrit Cole, and an example of like me being super invested and like obsessed with being in the nuance of fantasy baseball and everything baseball to provide you a more valuable experience. The things I'm going to say in the future, I don't like over across this video is probably not something you're going to see across any other any other fantasy baseball analysis channel. So let's jump into it. Though I'm not the best public speaker and I don't have the highest production value of a whiteboard behind me with the same joke as last video, I like to think the information is super valid, valuable, and very well researched. So anyways, let's jump into talking about the man himself, Gerrit Cole, number 4 overall prospect, or essentially like fantasy baseball ranked player this year, AL reigning Cy Young Award winner. And Monday happens, and Gerrit Cole has announced that he's feeling some discomfort in his elbow, and he's going to go get an RBI. I've done this twice now, an MRI. Then, not peculiar to me, but to the media, then they announce, okay, Gerrit Cole's unlikely to be the opener for opening day for the Yankees. And it's like, okay, that came out of nowhere. Not really, not to me. And then the next part is, okay, Gerrit Cole not only is going to be unavailable for opening day, he's going to be largely unavailable for the next 1 to 2 months. And this is the value of, I think, of fantasy baseball on deck. And like what I provide to you is the underlying strategy of what the Yankees are doing to manipulate Gerrit Cole's situation to make the most out of like what they need to now do to plug holes, because Gerrit Cole is going to be out for a long time, not 1 to 2 months. He has a better chance of missing the entire season compared to coming back before the All-Star break. And let me explain why. You can't really talk to me. This is a one-way recording. So anyways, let's go to Gerrit Cole's ranking. So he was number 4. They essentially Tristan Cockcroft, he's an animal. Anyways, he just threw essentially like, all right, Gerrit Cole's out of the picture for a top 10 pick at this point. They just replaced him with Spencer Strider. So now Spencer Strider is the number 1 ranked pitcher in fantasy baseball. When I started this show back in 2022, Spencer Strider, if you guys have been along with me the whole time, was one of my main people. I told everyone to pick up Spencer Strider before he even cracked the starting lineup with the Atlanta Braves. But anyway, that's here nor there. Let's go down to where he's at now. And I said before, goes from number 4 all the way down to number 40. So he drops 36 picks. And a lot of you would say to yourself, maybe like, oh, that's a huge value. If I could get Gerrit Cole in the 3rd or 4th round, even 5th round, maybe if he starts to fall, that's awesome. But I would hesitate, because what does it mean when a pitcher is being sidelined for 1 to 2 months? It's meaning sideline is a way of that's a PR, a public relations move between the front office of the Yankees to the media, knowing the media is going to spread out whatever they tell them, essentially. So in baseball, sidelined, especially for a pitcher, means that they're going to be shut down. And shut down is serious. Shut down means that Gerrit Cole is not going to touch a baseball in a throwing a baseball activity for 30 to 60 days for the purpose of waiting for that inflammation to dissipate in his elbow, waiting for that inflammation to dissipate enough where they can actually get a clean image. So when they went to go get an MRI, they couldn't take a clean image. They honestly have no idea what's wrong with like Gerrit Cole's elbow other than an assumed tear of some sort in his UCL, but they can't get a clean image, and they can't give him a clear diagnosis until they get that imaging back in a way that makes sense. And from an anatomy perspective, not to say that I'm a doctor or any way, I'm obviously and absolutely a nerd. I work in healthcare. I have an undergraduate in biology, and I love anatomy and all those things. But if you think of from an anatomy perspective, why shoulder and elbow discomfort or inflammation is really bad is in the shoulder. If you think about, like, it's a ball and socket joint, has the most range of motion of any joint in our body, essentially. So if a pitcher has, like Edward Cabrera most recently had some discomfort in his shoulder, like that's a problem because there's so much range of motion. There's an opportunity for it to overcorrect essentially in any different direction, but there's so many muscles attached to this area. Well, it's actually this joint has the most mobility and the least ligament support of any joint in the body. But there's so many attached muscles essentially that there's more of a variance of possibility of like short recoveries with the same diagnosis, meaning discomfort or inflammation in the shoulder. If we go to the elbow is a hinge joint, essentially, like with a little bit of variation. It's supposed to essentially extend and contract, and that's it. But if you ever watch baseball, if you know anything about pitching, the amount of stress that they throw on this elbow, like at full speed as hard as they can, like they're constantly stressing this hinge joint to go sideways as much as possible to increase spin. Also, I just saw a huge lightning strike. I think there's going to be a tornado here soon. So if I lose power, that's going to suck. But anyways, back to hinge joints. His hinge joint, given that it's only supposed to go back and forth, like extend, contract, it's reasonable to think that if there's all of a sudden inflammation across a one-way unilateral movement, that now all of a sudden there's something that's interrupting that movement that's causing the inflammation, meaning a tear. To me, 100% there's a tear of some sort, but like we don't know the severity of it. And the thing is like if we're going to go into what that tear means and like what that means for the Yankees moving forward, I think that it would be absolutely silly of the Yankees to push Gerrit Cole at all. I know that they're kind of all in on the I got to show you guys the contract part. Okay, so Gerrit Cole's contract, he has 5 years left, $180 million. On top of that, at the end of this season, in between 2024 and 2025, he has an opt-out opportunity, which would, if he ended up having a torn UCL, there's no reason for him to opt out of his $36 million per year remaining contract, because he's obviously going to want to get paid more than what his market value would be post Tommy John surgery. So the Yankees owe Gerrit Cole $180 million over 5 years. That's like him and Aaron Judge are absolutely their biggest investments. They're going to lose Juan Soto over this next year, but the overall kind of the strategy of this is that it's obvious that the Yankees, before even having an injury to Gerrit Cole this season, again, he hasn't pitched since March 1st, have been trying to illuminate and illustrate that they're fine and that they're like ready to go into the season. So without Gerrit Cole, with Gerrit Cole, even their rotation is very suspect. So if we go to Nestor Cortes, so let's look at the underlying facts of what is going on with a Gerrit Cole who's only pitched 2 innings this entire spring in two live bats with umpires. 2 innings pitched, hasn't pitched since March 1st, and they've been actively trying to trade or sign a free agent since then to make up for this loss, because they knew all along that they were going to lose Gerrit Cole, but like at this point they have to report it. So if looking at their rotation, Nestor Cortes, shoulder issues, missed most of last season, and he only has 10 innings pitched so far this spring. Like, he's a crafty left-hander. So he was the AL representative in the All-Star game in 2022. But like, Nestor Cortes not an ace talent. Carlos Rodon, injury issues his entire career, and it was revealed back in May that his back issue is actually chronic. So like, his problem that he's had with his back, never been a super reliable guy from a health perspective, super efficient when he's on the mound, but like, his back issue is chronic. It is never going to leave. He's going to have that for the rest of his career. It's going to be more like a pain management problem with an additional hamstring, elbow, and shoulder history that are going to be working against him. He's looked pretty good in spring so far this year, but like Carlos Rodon, you can't ever expect him to – I don't – expecting him to throw 160 innings I think is a lot. But whatever, that's just this website's projections. Marcus Stroman, we know all about his health history. I think that he gets like 60% of his contract if he just makes it past 120 innings or 140 innings because he does that. He just doesn't do that very often. Not a healthy pitcher. Clark Schmidt this past year was he kind of like graduated from the bullpen into the starting role because of so many health issues with the rotation and ended up throwing like 160 innings, but like overall a +4 ERA pitcher with not a ton of strikeout upside, like not super efficient. He's meant to be in the bullpen, but like they had to put him into the rotation, whatever. And then between Clayton Beeter, Lewis Gill, who is in AAA right now, Will Warren, and Chase Hampton, which I don't need to go over there. Scroll down. Sorry, guys. So Lewis Gill, Will Warren, and Chase Hampton. Chase Hampton being the Yankees' only top 100 prospect that is a pitcher. He's ranked 92nd out of 100. They're strapped for pitching, and that was before they lost Gerrit Cole. So they've also lost with the trade for Juan Soto. They gave up Michael King, who I think is going to be awesome this year. Luis Severino is gone, and also Johnny Brito is gone. So the Yankees are absolutely strapped for pitching. They just lost their best pitcher, the best pitcher in baseball, essentially over the last couple of years. And why would they lie about his? Why would the Yankees specifically cover up the severity of Gerrit Cole's injury? And it's because they've been trying to sign either Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery to to fill a spot for a long time, and Scott Boras being their agent. Their asking price has been here, and the Yankees have tried to their absolute best to maintain that they're not desperate and that their offering price is going to be here. Blake Snell just recently reported that he would be willing to negotiate a shorter term deal, but after this Gerrit Cole news, at least with the Yankees, he has no reason to discount himself on what he's been asking with the Yankees because they're kind of out of options. Blake Snell, it would be super valuable in that ballpark because of his left-handed. He's a left-handed pitcher. The only way you can really hit a home run in Yankee Stadium for the most part is being a left-handed hitter. So right-hand hitters don't really. It's the way that they constructed that ballpark is to be super left-handed hitter friendly, and right hand. I mean, kind of impossible. The Orioles and the Yankees did the same thing with their ballpark, so he would be really good there. Left-handed pitchers thrive with the Yankees. But if I'm going down and thinking about sort of like what's the value of Gerrit Cole? Well, Gerrit Cole is going to be out. I truly think that Gerrit Cole is going to be out for the rest of the season. There's no reason to push him, given how much money they owe him for the rest of his career. And as well, again, like the whole purpose of them doing this, to reiterate, I'm saying the same thing. The whole purpose of them doing this is to make sure that they're not getting price gouged by Scott Boras for either Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery, because they absolutely are desperate. But in trade negotiations, you always want to make sure that you're kind of presenting that like you're not really interested and that you're fine, so that you're getting better offers, sort of thing. So like if you're completely desperate and you make moves that are emotional and that are quick, you're constantly being taken advantage of. For example, like you would say, well, why haven't the Red Sox been rumored to be interested in Blake Snell? The difference is that the Red Sox they're not a contender. The Yankees are at least trying to project to their fans that they're contending this season, and they don't want the value of their ticket prices to drop through the floor, essentially, knowing that both Gerrit Cole is going to be out for the majority of the season, if not the whole season, as well as they're going to hold on to not telling you as much about the Aaron Judge injury to his abdominal track and his oblique as much as possible too, because again, they need to have this boost in revenue. They need to have a good season, they need to sell out these season tickets to have an opportunity to even sign Juan Soto at the end of the year. So it's about money, but it's also about like making sure that they're not getting price gouged for the free agents, the 2 free agents that they've been interested in the entire year. And they just missed out on Dylan Cease. I'm going to talk about Dylan Cease next video. So they're really strapped, but that's the value. So you would say to yourself, well, maybe what is the possibility that he powers through? Like he has a minor tear, but maybe he'll come back and like he'll be worth it. Well, they did this with Masahiro Tanaka, and Masahiro Tanaka hurt himself in 2020. Very similar injury, minor tear to his UCL. Decided that like, if the Yankees are in playoff contention in 2020, I'm going to power through and just see what happens. But he was also in the very last year of a 7-year contract and was going to be an unrestricted free agent. So the Yankees, they said, like, if you want to power through, that's absolutely up to you. And we're going to support that because we don't owe you anything after the season. If you blow up your arm, you're done and who cares sort of thing. Cause we're done with you after this. And unfortunately, exactly that's what happened. Tanaka, as a very young man, 2-time All-Star in 2020, 31 years old, end of his career, can't throw anymore. So, I like to think that they've learned from that situation. They're not going to force Cole to throw. Cole at the number 40 position, top 50 players. You cannot take that big of a risk. It's not worth it. I promise you. Let someone else fall for this. If you're strapped for a pitcher at this time, at this junction, going for, again, a Freddie Peralta, a Logan Gilbert, a Blake Snell, even though he doesn't have a team yet, a Max Fried, any of these guys would be better than a more sure shot than taking a risk on Gerrit Cole. So that is the end of this episode. Got through it, I feel like, pretty quickly. Anything under 20 minutes, I'm pretty proud of. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys enjoyed the video, let me know what you thought. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and commenting and all that jazz. And I'll look forward to talking to you about Dylan Cease next. All right, bye.